journey into the land of movies and witches and witch-like movies and things. But I have some amazing co-hosts with me. I am here with Heather Greene, the author of the definitive book on witches and movies. I have Jason Mankey, also witch and author and expert, and our very special guest, Richard Lael Lillard, who also is one of our favorite people in the entire world and knows a lot about everything. Sadly, Courtney is not able to be with us today because she's still a little under the weather, so we're sending her lots of good vibes. So, what are we talking about today? 2 movies, actually 1. Clues. Nightmare Before Christmas. Indeed, the perfect transition movie from Halloween to Christmas. And also another really great movie for the time, Coco. But before we get into that, we just had Halloween days ago. So let's talk about, hey, everybody, come on down. Hi, Earthly. Hi, Ian. Hi, Mandy. Go Sisters. So everybody, let's talk about what we did for Halloween. Who wants to go first, Jason?
Well, my Halloween was not the best I've ever had. I was supposed to be home. I went to the airport in Louisville, Kentucky very early on Halloween day, and 7 hours later they canceled my flight. So I spent most of Halloween drinking whiskey in downtown Louisville, and it was very empty. But, you know, spirits, I guess, on a night of spirits. So maybe it worked out after all, and I got home safe and sound yesterday. So not my favorite
Perfect.
Halloween, but at least it will be memorable going forward.
Exactly. Okay. Heather?
Well, we hung out in the neighborhood with the little kids all dressed up in their adorable costumes and the teens doing their thing in their crazy costumes, and hung out with friends and neighbors, and had good food, and you know, just a typical every year Halloween. The weather was absolutely beautiful, so we were able to be outside, so that was really cool.
That is perfect. Richard Lael, where were you on Halloween?
I was in Los Angeles. I was there visiting friends because my friends, this is their holy day. There's no other holy day other than Halloween. So they had to have me, and I was at Starbucks, and I ran into a masked person, and this was not a Halloween mask, but it was one of those face masks from, you know, that thing. And I introduced myself. She started this conversation. I introduced myself. I introduced my friend. I introduced his daughter. And then I said, "And what's your name?" And she says, well, she takes her mask off, and she says, "Professionally, I'm known as Queen Latifah." And I went, "Oh, okay. Oh, okay." And then I went to a Halloween party at my friend's house. So that was fun. That was what I did on my Halloween.
That is awesome. That is LA. Starbucks, that is the best star sightings always. LA is Starbucks. That is great. Well, I had a great Halloween too because I was in New Orleans, which I must say is about the best place I can imagine to spend Halloween. We had 4 days of amazing events with events in between them. On Friday, I got to host the Witches' Ball, and I got to MC the whole thing. I got to open it up with a ritual. I got to close with a midnight ritual, so we brought a little Samhain in as well. Saturday, the vampire ball itself kicked butt. Sunday, we had Babylon, which is a little more eyes wide shutty type thing, which I did a seance. So we kept the Samhain and the celebrating the dead along with everything else. And this year was the first year we were actually sponsored by AMC Interview with a Vampire. So we had that whole theme. We had a lot of people dressed in that period, most of us. So 1,200 people dressed to the nines, all kind of like Richard Lael. Not usually as good as him, but darn close. They were really good. So, and in between vampire cabarets and vampire po' boys and riverboat cruises and celebrating everything at the river. So this was one of my best Halloweens ever, I must say, even though I haven't slept in a week. Who needs to sleep? Right?
I'm glad you made up for me, Patty. Like,
I made
just
up
threw
for you.
all of my karma to you.
Thank you. Yeah, 2 nights not even going to bed at all, just because those were travel days or whatever. And Willow's tired because of that. Willow's very tired because of Mommy stayed up. So also, this is a seasonal, and and we are in a very season going into holiday season, and it's a lot of things other than Halloween. So on this note, since he's wrote a book about such things, Jason, why don't you tell us a little bit about where we are, what it is, etc., etc.
There's a lot of stuff that just goes on in late October, early November. No one is really sure if it's completely related or not historically, but I would suggest that there's just a feeling in the air this time of year. And that feeling in the air often revolves around the dead. So all of us probably who are witches just celebrated Samhain or Halloween. Today is All Souls Day, which is a day to commemorate all the souls who were righteous in the Catholic Church. If you're not Catholic, you can still play along. It's also the Mexican Day of the Dead. Mexican Day of the Dead celebrations are kind of a mixture of that Catholic tradition of All Souls Day, plus native traditions to Mexico, most specifically Aztec traditions. November 1st was All Saints Day, which is dedicated to all the saints known and unknown. Some of the saints were fine. Some of the saints, like Patrick, I like a little bit less. So what you want to do with that is really up to you. But there's a lot going on this time of year. There's a lot of energy there, and it's very transitional, as we've been saying, because now we're kind of not quite leaving Samhain behind yet, but we're getting closer and moving on towards Yule.
And everything in our pagan tradition, our witch tradition, is very seasonal because that's what everything is kind of based on. So we're going into that dark time. We're going inside. We're going inner. So it fits with what the season is and what we're doing.
There's just so much. Yeah. There's just so much death this time of year, which doesn't necessarily always sound happy, but it is just what it is. That's the way the wheel of the year turns. Traditionally, herds were culled this time of year. You also have the empty fields, and the trees have all lost their leaves. And while that sometimes feels kind of depressing, traditionally this is a time of abundance because you have all of this meat that you have to eat. Because for a long time, you really couldn't store your meat for very long. So it's also a time where you've taken in the grain and you've probably turned it into beer, and you've possibly turned your apples into cider and your grapes into wine. So there's a lot to celebrate in November and December too.
Yeah, a lot of fermenting to do. That is good. So, okay, so happy season, everybody. Happy season of celebrating the dead and our ancestors and just dead in general. Which one of our movies? I don't know which one we should start out. Should we start out with Coco?
In honor of All Souls Day, let's start out with Coco.
Let's start out with Coco.
Yeah.
I must say, I heard such great things about it, even philosophically wise from people. And I finally saw it just recently on a plane, and I was equally impressed. So, Heather, is that one you want to talk about in your expertise of movies?
Sure. I'll just mention it. I didn't follow it for my book because it's not a witch movie, so I don't have a lot of detail like I have in some of the ones I've studied. But just in terms of Disney movies, because I have studied Disney, especially in their transition from their older times into the new progress they made over the years in trying to incorporate more diverse stories. And they did a really good job of this. And one of the things I was concerned about is when you're from America, when you're from the US, you're representing a Day of the Dead. It's a Mexican holiday, a Mexican cultural tradition. To go ahead and do that as a movie for children or just family, as they say, to make sure that you're representing it properly. And so if it was not done specifically by Mexican filmmakers, but they did have, according to all of the reports and according to the stories and everything, they did have consultants. It was well received. Most of the voices were, in fact, Latino, and so they really tried to do a really good job of incorporating the diversity within the production, more so than they've ever done before, if you think back to Disney's history. And I thought it was fun. I thought it was really surprisingly fun, especially since it was music based, but it wasn't like a Broadway show, but yet it had that feel. So they did a really good job. And I'm going to be honest, I was bawling like a baby at the end. And so, I guess it won. And from what I've read, it was like #1 in Mexico. It was released in Mexico before here, and it was like #1 in Mexico for a long time. And that says a lot about the effort they tried to make it true, honest, and appropriate and respectful of the actual Day of the Dead tradition, which is really important in my mind.
Mine too. And I cried as well. And I was on a plane. But everybody else was watching.
I would have been right there with you. I would have cried, didn't matter where.
And I loved your, like, what the heavens were like. The whole thing. It was just sweet. Yeah. Jason.
This is one of the 3 best Disney movies ever made. I love this movie so much. I also saw it for the first time on a plane and cried. I cry every time I hear "Remember Me," the song from the movie. It's just so powerful. And now I have this fear, since I don't have kids, in 50 years, like, all my books are going to be in the remainder bin and no one's going to put a picture up of me on Samhain, which really frightens me. So there's also some, like, scares in this movie too.
Yeah, I know. I thought about that too. The no picture, you die. It's like, I don't have kids either, and Willow won't be around to put up a photo. So, oh well. Richard Lale.
I saw Coco a few years ago when I was on a cruise. I was going to go to Alaska, but I just booked any cruise out of LA, and I ended up by going to what they call the Mexican Riviera. And I was quite a sight, looking pale on this ship full of people out to party and have drinks, and wearing my suit and carrying my parasol. But I went out for a stroll one evening out on the deck, and they were projecting the movie, and I was so entranced I had to stand there and watch it. I came through about 20 minutes in, and I had to watch it. I stood right there and watched it on the deck, and I too cried, and fortunately there was no one to watch me cry because I was standing above them on the track, and I looked slightly sinister, but nobody saw me cry. So I think that's a win.
That is good. I see some people in this chat room said they cried too. And Liz, yes, I still do private readings. Just go to my website, pattinegri.com. You can sign up right there. I mean, I'm not in town a lot, but I do. And I'm going to be in town a lot soon. So not to go off subject.
I'd like to point out that one of the books I've worked on, as some of you may know, that I am an editor at Llewellyn, and one of the books I worked on, I'm going to hold up here, is The Day of the Dead. I'm on my camera here. So Llewellyn's Little Book of the Day of the Dead. It's part of a series, but this one was written by Jaime Garones, and he lives in Mexico City. So I was able to work on this book with him, and he is born and raised in Mexico, still lives in Mexico City. And I also recently did an article on Day of the Dead with Laura Gonzalez, also a witch here in the U.S. that is born and raised in Mexico City. Talked a lot about the holiday. And so I'm really glad I had that history going into watching this movie, because a lot of the stuff they did was so authentic that I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I know that because I read this book. And both of this book and the article I wrote, these guys are Wiccan witches. So or brujas, they call themselves that too. So they have that combination. And what's interesting is, like Jason said, is that Day of the Dead is a combination of the Catholic traditions as well as indigenous traditions. And so you really get a feel of that in when you speak to people that know about that, especially witches who are into the folk magic there and are really into the indigenous traditions. I don't know that came out in the movie, but it's embedded in Day of the Dead itself, in the holiday. So I guess it's sort of in the movie too, a little bit. Yeah, I feel that connection to Samhain, you feel that connection to the nature. So it's kind of neat from a witch perspective that way.
Yeah, that's the main Samhain ritual that I've been doing, a public ritual here in Los Angeles that the Green Man does. It's all about the pictures, and we have the entire altar. It's like 50 feet long with the bonfire and the celebration. It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. So they must.
What is remembered lives. I mean, we say that. What is remembered lives. That's what we say modern day witches, and that's what it was projecting.
And yes, somebody
Yeah.
wrote, yes, I did do an interview with Jaime. Those of you who recognize, he did the Witching Hour show. He was great.
Oh,
So we'll have to have
great.
him back.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'll hold his book up again because he's so authentic and it's really good. Wicked Witch wrote this about the Day of the Dead. He celebrates both Samhain and Day of the Dead. It's very interesting. And he's a great guy.
Thank you. All right. So anything else about Coco? Again, it's fun, it's sweet, it's touching, it's got a happy ending. What could be better in an animated film? I hate to tell anybody because I get mad. I'm not the biggest animated person as a rule. It's not. I know. Don't tell
Yeah, I'm
anybody.
gonna have to go with Jason on that one.
I know. I don't know what it is. It's not. I mean, when I watch one, I love it, and I do watch them. But it's that first gut reaction. It must be PTSD or something from a child. It's like, oh, it's animated. But then I watch it and it's fabulous. So never say I said that. I didn't say anything. That was somebody else. That was Willow barking. I never said that. I love animated. All right. So anyway, that is Coco. Huh?
Before we move on from Coco, I do want to throw out a little bit about a movie that is similar to Coco and came out a few years before it, called Book of Life, which also takes place in Mexico. And basically has Santa Muerta as one of the main characters in the Land of the Dead. So that is a movie, if you've never seen it, it's a little more low profile. It's also terrific and really great, and I love that movie. Both of those movies are in my top 10 animated films of all time.
Jason, have you seen the short, the Dia de Los Muertos? It's like a 5-minute short.
No, and that's the
the
first thing I'm going to do when we're done.
Yeah, go to YouTube and you can see it on YouTube or something. It's a short, like 5 minutes. It'll have you crying just like this one does. It's so sweet and it's so good. Put it aside for when someone passes, to give to somebody. It's the most adorable little thing. Also the same type of. There's no speaking in it, but I recommend everyone watch it. 5 minutes. YouTube. I think it's Dia de los. I have to look it up exactly. It's Dia de los Muertos, I think, is how the name of it. But it's so adorable, little girl, and her mom. I'm not going to say anymore. You'll watch it.
Oh. Sorry, I was muted. My dog was barking. I did that again. We will all go watch it. So I might be muting a lot right now. Anyway, it seems like people in the chat room like Coco too. Again, if you haven't seen it, even though it's animated, I highly recommend it.
No.
I highly recommend it. I'm going to mute. So on that note, should we move over to Nightmare Before Christmas? Ooh. I'm going to mute and hand it over to Heather.
Well, this is Halloween. That whenever anyone ever says the name of that movie, the first thing that comes into my head is the music. Being I love animation passionately since I can remember, and I love musicals. So this hit both things, and it had witches in it, and it was Halloween, and it was holidays. So I love this movie from the first moment I saw it. 1993, Tim Burton was top of the charts, doing everything. Batman. Edward Scissorhands. I mean, he was really hot in Hollywood, and this movie really captured. He was the creator of this movie. He created the characters, the concept. That's why his name is above the title, which is a big thing in Hollywood. So it really bleeds Tim Burton's creation, and it is brilliant. And I think the combination of his genius with Danny Elfman's music really did it for me. I mean, it just sold it. It was just, and I could watch it year after year. It has not gotten old. We do watch it year after year. We sing it. But the problem we have, and I think, I can put it to all you guys and everyone that's listening to us is it a Halloween movie or is it a Christmas movie? Because that's the question. Which one is it?
Hybrid. It's a hybrid. It's a collab, as the kids say.
It's a collab.
It's a collab. Yeah, I think it's both. You got it's a watch twice a year movie. I love the musical of it, almost like old
Mm.
fashioned musical where they're
Yep.
telling the story in songs. And I will catch myself out of nowhere going, "This is Halloween.
I
This
mean,
is
this is
Halloween."
Halloween.
In the middle of July.
What is
Yeah.
this? That's another song.
Oh yes, yes.
What is this?
I think it's a November 15th movie. That's like when I think of it. You know, you can still feel sort of that like Samhain Halloween energy in the air, but there's also Christmas lights everywhere. So it's a November 15th movie. Also, the Easter Bunny makes a cameo. So you could almost even say it's kind of an Easter movie.
So then what date then? Explain that one. Where do we put it?
Well,
Aha.
Yeah, I'm even making
That's
this more difficult. I know.
Mhm.
3 times a year watch it.
3 times.
Well, or
okay.
once, November 15th and then somewhere near Easter. Ah.
I have to admit, I'm a little bit overwhelmed with Nightmare Before Christmas, because those of you who knew me back in LA, I worked I was the MC, I was the host, I was the master of ceremonies at a Tim Burton themed restaurant. And so I'm a little bit, I would hear the music all year round, and I love the film when it's just the film. I think I've come to the point where I'm so oversaturated with it. But I love the film. I just like it as the film.
And I must say, you were fabulous at that Tim Burton themed bar.
It
Just
was
saying.
fun. It was fun. Completely off. I was Willy Wonka. I played Willy Wonka, but I was not Nightmare Before Christmas. But I liked it. One of my friends was great as Jack Skellington. He had this full puppet that he had created. So brilliant artwork, brilliant artistry. Love the music, but again, it's a little, for me, I feel like it's just so overplayed.
If you
It
work
is.
at a Tim Burton themed bar. Ah.
I think it's the most popular of all of this type of film, which really I'm thinking back, and of course this wasn't part of my study, so I'm just kind of off the cuff. I think this was really the first one, the first animated film that gave us that combination of something that's scary, presented and started with something that's very scary in animation, and then sort of showed us the softer side of it. So you have that, and I think that's Tim Burton does that, Henry Selick does that, the director, and you see that in Coraline and Corpse Bride. Also, those two guys. You see it in uh, what's the Paranorman. So you have like over the next couple decades, you have a bunch of animated films that sort of have that feel where you start off with this something presumably scary thing, which is this is Halloween. You have pumpkin heads and everything that is supposed to frighten us that comes out of Halloween. And then you start to see the softer side of it. You start to see the romantic side of Sally, this stitched up doll figure, which we see right there on the screen, and the pumpkin head, scary Jack Skellington, and the worms and the witches and all these things that are supposed to scare us. We start to see the softer side of it, the romantic side, the wishful side, the gentle side of something and it remains scary. And you see that in Coraline, Corpse Bride, again, all these other movies. So and I think the new one too. What is it? Wendell and Wild? Is that the name of the new one? That just came out. I think it's on Netflix. It's it's demons who befriend a human. It's this softer side of what's scary.
Yes, it is stop motion. Amber just said, "Isn't it stop motion?" Yes, it is. So it's not animated; it's a stop motion.
It is a type of animation. It's
It
a
is
type
a
of
type of
animation.
Yes,
You
it
know,
is.
I watched it today for the first time in a while. I probably don't watch it every year like a lot of people do. And for a minute, I thought to myself, "Is this a CGI film?" Is so timeless in that style. I mean, you look at old Disney movies from the 30s and 40s and 50s, and you can tell what decade those movies were made in. In 20 years, we're going to be looking at CGI movies going, "Oh, 2010. Oh, 1998. But I don't think you can really date The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's just
They
so
did-
unique and so different.
They did digitally enhance it after the fact, because originally you could see all of the wires and but they went in and erased all of those. So they did digitally enhance it, but it is well done. I will say that it is absolutely well done.
And there's
It's
a
so
couple
bizarre.
of spots,
You can't date it. Like you said, it's so bizarre.
You know what I truly actually love about it is that it reminds me of the 1920s German expressionism, those odd angles and those lighting techniques. It's very much sort of in that vein. And that's one of the reasons I love Tim Burton is his love of the German expressionism of the 20s.
Well, it always felt like to me that this came out of a book somewhere. You know, that there was somebody else who did this 80 years ago, and now we're finally making a movie out of it. It's just so well imagined and visioned. I mean, the Addams Family, right, was a cartoon first. I always thought that there had to be a Jack Skellington somewhere deep in the recesses of a bunch of magazines or something from 1937.
Yeah, they do. It does feel like those early Addams Family cartoons, which did a similar thing again. It's taking something that is normally thought of as frightening and making it normal and gentle and loving, which came out of those cartoons. So it does feel like that. It always reminds me of that.
But it wasn't that at all. I just watched an interview with Danny Elfman and Tim Burton, how they just kind of created. Tim would give them kind of an outline, no script, and then Danny would create a song, and then they'd go back and forth and created it that way, which is pretty cool.
Very cool. It was a perfect collaboration between the three of them, if not the rest of them, but it was between the three of them. It was like minds meet.
I'm muted. Talk amongst yourselves.
I like Danny Elfman's scores, but during that particular period of time, a lot of them sound very similar. So sometimes when I watch Nightmare Before Christmas, I expect Batman to swoop in because some of the music sounds just like his music in Batman.
He also did the score for gosh, now I'm going to forget the name of the movie. So you're going to have to give me a minute. But I remember it was another 90s movie. And I remember watching it. I was in film school and I'm saying, gosh, that's an amazing soundtrack. It wasn't The Crucible. It was, I'm going to come up with the name of it. But it was, it was the same thing, Jason. You're sitting there going, this is an amazing soundtrack. Who composed this? And it's like, oh, Danny Elfman. No wonder I love it. I'll have to think of that movie. It was, it was a remake of a French movie, and I can't think of the name of it right now. But it's the same thing. His music is so distinctive during that period of time, and it's just it moves you. And he did such a beautiful job with this. It really was. The movie it wouldn't be the movie without his particular music. And
it's his voice as Jack Skellington when he's singing, which I didn't know for a very long time, which makes me like it even more because I'm not sure I've ever really heard Danny Elfman sing other than an Oingo Boingo. So I think that's really cool that, he did the music and he sings some of those songs that all of us know so very well.
I'm going to have to look it up because it's going to drive me crazy now. What movie it was that I'm thinking of.
I like it too, just because I'm a Hollywood girl, and these are local people to me. I've never met Danny Elfman, but I know Richard Elfman very well. He's my neighbor down the street. I know their mom. I know Jenna. I know all these different people. So it's like, the good part of the family who made a big success of themselves. So you run into them at, the farmer's market down the street. So that's really fun for me personally, just that Hollywood thing.
Rob says it might be Sleepy Hollow.
That's not the movie I'm thinking of. It'll come to me. Just give me a second. But yes, he did so many.
Living in Silicon Valley, we run into people like Mark Zuckerberg, not nearly as exciting as the people Patty runs into.
or Richard Leal. Again, you got to hang out at Starbucks. Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg rented the crazy party house in my neighborhood. So they all, even the Silicon Valley people, come up here and rent our party houses. So they're not noisy there, I guess. I don't know.
good to get rid of them for a while. I'm fine with that.
Ah.
So
Yeah. So go ahead.
Heather would know, is Corpse Bride related to The Nightmare Before Christmas? Is it like in the same world, or is it just that sort of same similar style?
It's the same similar style. It's not in the same world. It's have you not seen it? It's a totally independent story. It's adorable. And again, it starts out with this concept of something that would be normally very scary, like a dead bride, and getting sucked into that world of death, and then making it something that's extremely romantic and sweet, with a good versus evil, and a just not even the binary of good versus evil, just sort of the contemplation of ethics and that are presented in these movies in a light way. But no, it's not. It's not the same universe. It's not anything like that I've connected. I haven't studied these, so maybe there is some connection that I don't know about, but no. Really sweet. Corpse Brides. Coraline is sweet. That's a Henry Selick movie. That's sweet too. Paranorman is adorable. Witch movie, so it is in my book. That's really cute too. I love all these little kind of dark, but yet not dark movies.
So since we usually do talk witch movies, this isn't a real big witchy movie, but there is a witches in this movie, right, Heather?
Here she is. This is the large witch. Or the big witch, I think is her name. There she is, and she has a sister, and they do have a little cameo in the opening song where they sing and they fly on their brooms. So you see them occasionally flying on their brooms. That's the extent of the witches. And why are there witches in this movie? Because Halloween. Just like
in the three kids, isn't there one that's dressed like a witch as well?
Yes, I think one of the three.
Because there's a devil, a skeleton, and a witch.
Yeah, but those are costumes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they're dressed in costumes. They're supposed to be trick-or-treaters, like scary trick-or-treaters. But the full-on real witches, if you can say that, are these two. Oops, there's my camera. These two guys, this and her sister. So it's just like Salem. You can't have a witch movie that's about witches without having it being in Salem. Salem's a Q. You can't have a Halloween movie without having a witch show up at some point. It's just what it is.
And now it has to be a green witch, thanks to Wizard of Oz, which we just learned last week.
Yep, she does have green skin. And, getting to animation just real quick is that animation is the one that really projected that. Right after Wizard of Oz, the very first one to do it a few years later was an animated stop action, actually, early stop action, that used the green skin, and it was animation that perpetuated that over the years, not other types of films. You had it in this type of film, so it's not uncommon. You're going to find a witch in an animated film with green skin. It's very normal. And there she is.
Yay! I love that on our show we get to show off all our toys. Yeah,
we have lots of them.
We have lots of toys, lots of dolls. Completely off topic. Do you have your new doll there, Heather?
Oh my goodness, she isn't even ready to be presented. But
really, she looks a little green. Is she a witch?
she's not green yet. She's not green. She's just cool. She's not completely ready for her
debut
close up yet, DeMille.
So this was a sneak peek just to show her pretty Jason locks.
That's yeah. See, there you go. Yes, I do love the haunted dolls. So we're just waiting to see. My dolls are trying to make connection with your doll, Patti.
Yes. We should have them set up their own Zoom sometime and then just leave them be.
Yeah, see what happens. Take over the world.
Here, Belle is so out of the picture right now. Let me go. There we go.
There she is.
There she is. She was going to hit me in my sleep, but so nobody is really in our audience. We love you guys' comments. Thank you, Richard Hicks, loving all our toys. Yes, we like our toys. What is your guys' thoughts on these movies? What do you guys Night Before Nightmare Before Christmas. Thoughts? We're not being controversial this week at all, because usually almost all our films have a love hate or something.
Usually Heather or I dislike something.
Yeah.
Usually one of us is curmudgeonly, and apparently we're not this time. Though I will say that I probably don't love The Nightmare Before Christmas as much as most people. I think it kind of runs out of steam a little bit, but it's still a really great movie, and visually it's just stunning.
I think my biggest... Go ahead, Richard. Leo?
I agree. I think it's a great movie. I think it's beautiful. I think it does run out of steam. It's not my favorite movie. I like it. I don't really watch TV, but if it came on, and I wouldn't change the channel. So I guess that's a way of gauging it, is I wouldn't change the channel.
As a lover at animation, I definitely love this movie, and the only struggle I have is I don't know when to watch it, because I feel like if I watch it too close to Halloween, I'm letting Christmas and Yule in too early, and if I watch it too late, then I'm not feeling the Halloween spirit, and so I struggle with exactly. I think November 15th Jason might be right. This is a good November 15th movie. I'm gonna aim for that one. I think you got that. Because I'm very strict about allowing Yule in too early, because it tries. Like, it's already in my stores. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready for this. I got to have it very partitioned. Jason and I had a discussion about this recently, about making sure when to start celebrating Halloween. Yule. And so I am very strict about trying to make that. So that's the only problem. I'm like, I don't know what this movie is. Is it Halloween or Christmas? But
I don't want a lot for Christmas.
See, don't open that Pandora's box, Richard Lale, because once you open that box, I don't stop. See, that's my problem. Once it's open, the Christmas carols can't stop.
Sing, Heather, sing, Richard Lale. I
will not do it.
It's a Christmas in their house because they miss Halloween. That's a good thought. When you're tired, everything is red and green. You're missing the orange, And they do start Christmas Yule way too early, like July around here in Los Angeles. Home Depot has the trees out. It's like, So. Did someone just hear a bird?
I did. There was a bird.
It was a tweet. Someone got a tweet.
That was my son's tweeting, so just ignore that. They are not on block because they are my children, so they are all the way down here. My cell phone is way away, but they tweeted. I don't know if they're listening. If you're listening, sons, please stop tweeting at me right now or texting me right now.
Unless it's very, very important.
Very, very important. But there are a lot of, I think over the next, there are a lot of holiday movies, which I'll just bring up since we're talking about the mixture. There's a lot of Yule Christmas movies that have witches in them. So I think over the next, few weeks, we can start bringing those up, because it is very interesting that you have those crossovers. You have the Magic Christmas Tree. That's from the 1960s. It's a really bad movie, but it has a witch in it about a magic Christmas tree. It kind of tried to play off of Wizard of Oz sensibility, but really is not very good. You also have a... what other movies have I guess some of the Harry Potters have Christmas in them, but there is some crossover. And then if you get to La Befana, of course, anything with La Befana in it is going to have a Christmas Halloween feel to us, the Christmas Witch. So there are other crossover movies.
One of my favorite crossover movies, and I had to look it up because I wanted to make certain that I got the title right. It's Santa Claus versus the Devil. 1959. It's this fantasy film where Santa Claus meets the devil and triumph of good over evil and whatnot.
Wow.
I don't know this one.
How do I not know this film?
I'm writing this down.
1959. I have it actually here. Santa Claus versus the Devil. Let me read the synopsis. The devil wants to prevent Santa from making the children of the world happy. Merlin the magician helps Santa save the world from his evil plans.
Wow. I've never heard of it either.
How do they throw Merlin the Magician into this? I mean, wow, it just gets more and more awesome. This is
It's a collab. It's a
This
collab.
is an IP that needs to be brought back. Totally brought back.
It's bad. It's such a bad film, but it's so bad. I love everything about it. But of course, I won't give it away too much, but there's one of the characters that I root more for than the other one. I'm not going to tell you which one I was actually rooting for.
We'll just make that assumption.
Not Sandy Claus.
Sandy Claus.
I know that.
Kidnap a Sandy Claus.
Yeah. I know Heather's always worried about Christmas creep and Yuletide, like, getting too close to Halloween. But these two holidays have always been connected in a lot of ways. The ancient Norse used to celebrate Yule with ghost stories, so it would feel maybe a lot like Samhain in some instances. And a lot of Halloween traditions, like dressing up and even trick-or-treating, probably come from Yuletide traditions, like wassailing and mumming. So they are wedded together. So you can play Mariah Carey this early and still feel a little Halloween Samhain-ness.
Yeah.
And A Christmas Carol is a ghost story, as well as Scrooged, if you're going to go more modern. Those are all Christmas ghost stories. So, yes, they are definitely linked forever.
Well, I think that's the natural trend of celebrating the seasons, and especially if you're a witch and you're working with spirits on a regular basis all year round, not just this time of year. Samhain, in my mind, is not the only time to work with spirits. It's not the only time to honor your ancestors. So that's not my problem. It's the commercialization part. That's my problem. My problem is that all of a sudden we have to have all this, start buying presents, having the Black Friday. They're advertising Black Friday in August, and I'm like, whoa. I got to do my commercial Halloween before I do my commercial Christmas. So it's not the other celebrations. I'm totally in on that. Totally get that part of it. And yes, I love that. So I try to give each season its own time on the stage in the spotlight. That's just my personal feeling. So right now, Halloween, Samhain is having its time in the spotlight. Its glory. It's close up with DeMille, as I said. Then it'll move to the side, and we can let Yule have its time in the spotlight. It's the commercialization I have a problem with, Jason, not the other aspects of it.
If you go back to ancient Rome, they used to always tell people to buy for Saturnalia in July. I mean, it's always been here. The commercialization of thousands of years.
And I would have fought it then too.
That's what I've heard. So many people, not witch people, just people in general. Even though yes, everything is commercialized, and from Target to Amazon to everything, you go this color scheme to that color scheme. At least Halloween, so many people, it's their favorite because you don't have to get presents. At least a little candy on is one thing, but you don't have to get this whole gift thing, which has gotten out of hand. Mm-hmm. I just call it holiday season. I think that to me, it's Halloween kicks off the holidays, period, because it goes to Thanksgiving and everything in it. And then we go through a dry spirit with a little bit of Valentine's Day and a little bit of Easter, Ostara, and a little bit, not a lot.
Yeah, this is the kickoff for the Halloween, for the holiday season, and I think that that's one of the reasons we like The Nightmare Before Christmas right now, because it feels like that. It's like, okay, here we go. Yep. Starting, and it's fun. It is fun. And we do like to sing around our house. So, right now we're getting ready for those Christmas carols hardcore, and it's Nightmare Before Christmas just gives us that doorway in.
Cool. Perfect. So what are some of the films we should do coming up for witchy films for the holidays, Heather? I know everybody's waving. Hi, everybody.
Hi. Witchy films for the holidays. I'm gonna have to make a list for y'all of witch films, witch Christmas films that are specifically witch. The Magic Christmas Tree is a terrible, terrible TV movie from the 1960s. I recommend everybody watch it. It's terrible, but as my old film professor said, you can't know a good movie unless you watch the bad ones. So that one is one. So I will definitely come up with a bunch of witchy Christmas movies, including La Befana ones that may be from Italy. That would be a really good list to put together, because there are Yule time witches and magic. Well, of course, magic.
That was going to be my question. Is there very many movies that talk about Yule itself not being Christmas, getting into the Yule log and the Yule, are more pagan celebrations other than baby Jesus?
I have to think about that a little bit. It may be mentioned in some of the folk horror, which is the only time you really hear about the Sabbats in any kind of true form, is in folk horror, which is kind of sad. But most Christmas movies are Christmas movies, even though they have, as Jason pointed out, elements, of course, of the old traditions. Most Christmas movies are Christmas movies. But what's funny, and I don't know about you guys, but Christmas movies and Christmas music, yes, it's all Christmas, it's all Christianity. I did not grow up Christian at all. But I found the magic in it all. There's magic within it that I was able to pull out in the music, in the movies, in the stories, that without that religious aspect. So I don't know that's a witchy thing or not.
Right. And things like, again, there always is the fire growing, and there always is the holiday, the Christmas tree, which, if you look back to just the story of Jesus, they wouldn't have had a Christmas tree. They wouldn't have had an evergreen at all.
No.
Well, actually, there is something. I did grow up Christian, so this I do know. This is what I was raised Pentecostal. So there is a scripture reference in the Bible, and it talks about these people who would chop down tall cedars of Lebanon, and they would deck them with gold and silver, and then they would bow before them. And it was really saying, as this sect, you are not allowed to do that. But since Christianity borrows from other pagan traditions and older things, I say have the tree, enjoy it, and love it. And yes, it is a biblical reference, but it is not a Christian reference.
I think Jason wrote the book on Yule, so he probably knows.
I did write a book about Yule. One of the reasons people decorate with evergreens in December is because they are one of the few things that are green. So the Romans used to decorate for the January calends and Saturnalia with evergreen boughs, and they used to do the same thing with the Germanic people and the Norse. And so it's kind of a cultural universal. A lot of people didn't chop down a whole tree and put it in their home, but the pine boughs and that type of tree has always really been honored near the winter solstice. I think we have to talk about Harry Potter at holiday time, though. To me, those are holiday movies, because I've watched most of them come out in December. So even though they have little Christmas scenes and they end in May or whatever, they still always feel like Christmas movies to us at our house. Holiday films.
I think the 1991 Addams Family is definitely a Christmas witch movie, because it starts off with a pouring the cauldron of hot boiling whatever down onto the carolers. And of course, Grandmama, she's a witch, and Morticia's a little bit of a witch. She never is.
She is
expressly, but yeah, she's a witch.
She is.
But definitely, Grandmama is a witch. So it's a Christmas witch movie, I think.
They exist. They do. And the key thing to understand is that in one of the key things to understand is in old Hollywood, golden era Hollywood, code Hollywood, Christmas was a cue, just like Salem's a cue for Hollywood, for a witch movie, or small New England town is a cue for a movie about witches and witchcraft. Christmas is a cue in Hollywood language for good people. People who, in a movie, if a character wants to celebrates Christmas, or wants to celebrate Christmas, or celebrates Christmas, it indicates that character is good. This is an old Hollywood trope. This is a cue in Hollywood language. And so, like in a movie, getting back to witch movies, Bell Book and Candle, um, she says she's a witch. Okay, so Jillian says multiple times, I don't want to be a witch anymore. I want to be humdrum. She says, I want to celebrate Christmas. And she actually, I think that evening, one of the very first evening you see them is Christmas Eve. And I want to celebrate Christmas. I want to be humdrum. I want to be normal. This was an indicator. Saying I want to celebrate these holidays was an indicator that she wanted to be normal. She wanted to be good, and to tell the audience who is watching this movie that she was a good guy. So Christmas has always had that cue. And that is definitely a remnant of the code of what Hollywood was trying to do in their code that was written by the Catholic layman and the Jesuit priest. So Christmas is a cue for good people. Just like you're good to dogs, you're good to children, and you like Christmas and you celebrate Christmas. So you see Christmas pop up in other witch movies as indicators, just like Salem does.
Fascinating. And I just want to say hi, Jeff. We see you. Hi, Jeff. Bel Air House. Celebrate Christmas at the Bel Air House, or Yule, or Samhain, or any hybrid in between. I just wanted to check in on everybody. Hi, Allison. You were on the wrong chat. Oops. It happens. You're here now.
It's one of my
As we're
favorites
getting
ever.
ready to go. And yes, we are definitely going to do Harry Potter. Though I must say, at the vampire ball, there was something very not anybody involved with the vampire ball. Somebody came up while Father Sebastian was making our big final remarks and thank you and magic is everywhere kind of stuff. Somebody maybe had drank too much, came up and said, well, then if you really care about the LGBTQ community, you will stop referencing Harry Potter, which he wasn't and hadn't done all weekend. But I was like, what? But maybe they just had one too many drinks. I don't know. But we will go there when we go there with Harry Potter, if there's anywhere to go on that. But before we go, and before I have to mute again, everybody, thank you for this. Tell us where they can find you, anything you have going on. Let's start with you, Richard Lale. And again, thank you for jumping in with us whenever we need you, and we love you madly. Oh, you double.
Of course, I love you, all of you. It is so good to be here. I'm so honored to be part of this. I am everywhere. I'm the gentleman psychic. Anywhere good gentleman psychics are sold, that's where I am. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, or you can find Richard Lale Hillard. If you type that in, you can find me. I'm everywhere. I'm like Santa Claus or Satan. I don't know which.
A collab.
Krampus.
Oh, Krampus.
All right. Jason, how about you?
I'm Jason Mankey. You can just Google my name. I'm everywhere. I'm the most well-known Jason Mankey in the world out of the four of us. If you live in the Bay Area, this Saturday night, I will be presenting a Samhain ritual, because it's still Samhain season, in Santa Cruz, California. So that'll be really fun. So if you're around, come by. And if you've got like thousands of dollars to burn, fly out here. I promise the ritual will kick your butt. It's great.
So how do people find out about it? From your website?
Just Samhain Santa Cruz Community Seed. I've also tweeted about it and written about it a little bit. So you can find it if you're looking for it.
Thank you. And Robert Hicks, yes, he said wonderful show, even though it wasn't a witchy movie. But they had a green witch in it. So there you go. And we say it's transition. Everything is transition. Okay, Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather Greene, and I am at heathergreene.net, and that is where you can find all my socials, as well as links to articles I write at various sources, because I am also a journalist that covers these the occult and witchcraft. So you can find my articles there. You can find my Twitter is where I typically am communicating, and reach out to me there. Tell me movies I need to watch. You can find information about my book on my website. And if you're in the Atlanta area on, I believe it's November 16th. I'm forgetting the date now. Saturday, I'll be at the Barnes and Noble in Midtown Manhattan. It's the Georgia Tech bookstore. It's their last and final game, so it should be fun and crowded and lots of partying going on. And I'll be there signing books and talking about witch movies at the same time as the students are celebrating football. So that should be fun. Go Jackets.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Hi, Todd. Yes, at the Shrine, this beautiful place in Tennessee. Hi, Todd. Good to see you. I am Patti Negri. You can find me at pattinegri.com. And again, you could get all of my socials, Patti Negri Psychic Medium. It's actually verified on Facebook, Patti.Negri on Instagram, not the other dozen, at Patti Negri on Twitter. But again, if you get there from my website, sign up for my newsletter. I, of course, besides this wonderful show, which we are so happy you guys like, please tell your friends about it. Follow us. We have a Facebook page, which is Movie Coven. I also have the Witching Hour podcast where you see all these lovely people and more, and the people we talk about all the time, like Jaime, the Witching Hour with Patti Negri, everywhere you get podcasts, and in video on my YouTube page and on Paraflix, my network. And this week, if you are around, Willow will not be with me, but I will be in Massachusetts, Concord, Massachusetts. It's going to be a sweet little wonderful Paracon by my friend Sam Baltrusis. So if you're anywhere near there, come on down. And we're doing seance and speaking and all sorts of great folks. massparacon.com. And the week after that, I can't tell you what I'm doing. And the week after that, I can't tell you what I'm doing. But then I am going to be in Dallas in the beginning of the week and doing 2 different things. So all you Texas folks, come on down that first week in Dallas. But I'll talk about that in the weeks to come. So thank you guys. This is the Witches Movie Coven. Patti Negri, Richard Lael Lillard, Heather Greene, Jason Mankey, Sally, the Green Witch, Courtney, hello. We send you love from afar. And
Hi,
Courtney. Hi, Courtney, and all of you, because you really make our show. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for your comments. We want to thank our producer, Rob Cohen, and Christine Roth. And we love you all. And there's one more thing that we do to end every show. Oh, wait, we were going to do wands up or wands down to something, but I can't remember what.
All the movies.
Okay, Coco. Wands up, wands down. Wands up or Sally up. Okay. Nightmare Before Christmas. Wands up, wands down. Sally up. We've got 2 ups. 2 ups.
Mine is kind of.
Sideways?
Sideways.
Sideways.
Richard Lael says, lower like this.
All right. Well, there is one more way that we always end the Witches Movie Coven. So we want you guys doing it with us wherever you are. Make noise. Confuse your roommates, family members, and neighbors. On the count of 3, we cackle. 1, 2, 3. That's the Witches Movie Coven. See you next week.